is not doing super great.
Wait a minute. That's not how that fight ends. You know, guys, I've always really liked CG Crumb. It's something about that mustache that just makes him endearing. And the fact that he did go online a couple of hours ago and actually gave us a sneak peek, a little preview, a little bit of morsel, a little nibble of actual in-game footage of the new TB that we're getting in a couple of days. Really cool. And it gave us the opportunity to dissect some of the information that we are seeing on board here and make better plans for the future of our TB. Let's break this down. The first thing that I want to talk about is just a little bit about this footage that we're seeing here. I know Crumb at the moment is missing a character. That's actually Darth Vader that he lost at the start of the wave. I missed the very start of it, unfortunately. But some key takeaways from here. One, CG Crumb is not getting any benefits from only the operations, or platoons as they used to be known, so there are no benefits to his stats, he's not gaining any special abilities, and the enemies are at their full strength. This phase is a Phase 1 combat mission. It consists of 2 waves, obviously, we knew this all before, and there's a minimum requirement of Relic 5 across the board. Crumb is only actually using a Relic 6 team here with, by his own admission, relatively moderate mods. I don't want to. He says they're not top end. He had about 100 additional speed, 120 maybe on these characters. Nothing crazy or nothing outlandish to be expected at this level of play. It's good to see that he is able to go into this mission. I believe it's on Mustafar, and he's able to handle it very, very easily. We're seeing units that we're used to see in Lightside GOTB in Phase 1, for example. We're seeing the likes of the Droidica, we're seeing the likes of the Magna Droids, and they are not actually dealing as much damage as what we would expect from Phase 1 of Lightside GOTB. Now, that could be because Lightside GOTB is only 4 phases long. It could be that they've just decided to lower the difficulty of the combat missions, in particular in the early phases of this new TB. Still super useful to know. We also see the second wave of this is actually up against the Genosians. So we're getting a little bit of sneak peek against the enemy types that we're going to be seeing. As you can see from the footage here, this is what it looks like on the actual map. You can see the 3 different paths over there, one for light side, one for dark side, one for mixed, and each individual planet per phase has got 4 missions that you can attempt, 4 combat missions, 3 of which are ground, 1 of which is going to be a fleet mission. Now, all of the ground missions have got 2 waves, the fleet mission is 1 wave, and it seems that there is at least always 1 special mission per planet per sector. You can see in the top, we've got 54 stars that are in total achievable because of the size and scale of this territory battle. And Crumb has already hinted that this is going to be almost a modular TB, in so much as when new content comes out, they're going to be able to expand on it, to introduce new planets, to introduce new combat missions as the game develops. It is a long-term project, and I think that is really a great, great thing. Another thing to note, Crumb has also confirmed that the deployments for each phase are completely free and open. So you're not restricted to deploying just your light side roster within the light side planets. You can use all your light side roster, all your dark side roster, all your neutral roster, all one of them. Hondo over there holding up the neutral tag all by himself. You can actually do that in any sector. If you want to progress down the mixed path, as you can see in Phase 3 of the mixed path, that is where the Reaver special mission is. If you only want to progress to the 3rd planet, as it were, you can just focus all of your energy into deploying, into platooning that middle row of planets and trying to get to that as soon as possible. I know that a lot of guilds are going to be focusing on strategizing how do they progress, what's the best way to get the most stars. Now, unfortunately, we didn't really get to see much of Phase 2, we saw none of Phase 3, and he refused to show certain content, like he had Reaver in his account but wouldn't use her, and he wouldn't show us the Reaver special mission, he wouldn't show us the Hondo special mission. He hinted this is the reason for this is because there is some content in here that he wants us to be surprised by, because from what we've seen in this footage so far, it is relatively generic stuff that we would normally expect in a standard TB. We're seeing the same units, we're seeing clones, we're seeing geos, we're seeing droids, that sort of thing, so no new surprises there. I did find it a little bit funny that several times upon this stream, his actual game was crashing. He was putting it down to it being the test server, it being a test environment, but we all know the stability of this game, don't we? So the humour was not lost on me there. In other news, we were also given insight into just how much GP or territory points is required in order for us to reach the maximum stars per planet. There's a table here that's been doing the rounds through my various Discord servers, where we can see, the early phases over here. We only need 248 million GP. That's pretty achievable for a lot of endgame guilds, considering the barrier to entry is actually 200 million GP. A lot of people will be able to get early stars done quite well through deployments alone. And that was one of the key things that Crumb did mention. He said, although we might not be able to actually fully engage with the content by playing it immediately, we would at least be able to get a significant number of stars just through deployment. However, have we seen what it's like in the final phase? Phase 6 requiring 1.2 billion GP in order to hit those 3 stars. I never knew there was so much GP in the world that we could hit all that. But hey, it is a long-term investment. I'm still disappointed that phases 5 and 6, and basically 4 as well, are essentially out of reach of 99.9% of this player base for the foreseeable future. This is not something that's going to be addressed in a 1-year period, in a 2-year period. We're talking, well, potentially a 2-year period. We'll see how the developments in the gear economy changes pan out. But it is going to be quite some time before we can engage in that, and that is a little bit disappointing to me. The other thing that's a little bit disappointing is, as far as I'm concerned, being able to go in there, hit your platoons, and hit your deployments and not actually engage with doing the missions is just a little bit upsetting, because new content comes out and we want to engage with it. We want to play the new content. I'd like to see more stuff like the cool Kenobi versus Lord Vader battle with a different perspective. It's cool to engage with that. And we're just not getting the opportunity to see that for a long, long time, it feels like. Hopefully these gear changes and the rewards that we get from this new TB, which are significant, we'll touch on that in a minute, are really going to help us hit those higher phases, hit those additional missions that we're going to see. Now, we weren't able to see the Reaver mission, but we do know that it's required to be Relic 7 across the board. That is only a minimum recommended. From what we're seeing in early suggestions, it looks like it's going to need to be very high relic requirements in order to successfully pass that mission, and you can bet your bottom dollar that you're going to need good modding and the correct strategy. I myself am actually really looking forward to engaging in the Reaver Special mission. My guild is currently focused on getting there, and I'm going to be recording footage and breaking that down and hopefully coming up with a strat where we can all get our Reaver shards pretty damn efficiently. So what I've got up here is the current reward scheme for this new TB. Now, obviously, 54 stars is going to be out of the reach of everybody for the next forever. We still can't even finish Lightside GeoTB. So this is unreasonable expectations. However, we have been told that those that are sort of endgame are clearing out Darkside GeoTB and maybe hitting around about the 30 star point could expect to get around the 20 star just from platoons and deployments alone. So, already we're looking at about 725 crystals. We're looking at a decent stock of this new Get 3 currency, whilst also not sacrificing too much on the Get 1 and the Get 2. When we look at the Territory War prize box, we can see some actual good gearers in here. We're looking at gear 12 plus pieces here. We're looking at furnaces. Now, it says you will receive 1 or more items. Obviously, there's going to be some RNG involved. Obviously, we're going to have some gear that is less than desirable, like these stun cuffs, Mark IV Carbantes, for example. They don't really hold a lot of value, but there's always been that sort of element of RNG when it comes to rewards. We are still getting Chirotech as part of these rewards. We are still getting some really good finisher pieces. We're getting some of the left-hand pieces as well. So I'm holding out hope that even though guilds are not going to be able to achieve much when they first start doing this TB, the reward boxes, provided you can still get around that 20 star mark, if you can start getting some decent boxes, they're going to be dropping gear 12 plus pieces. If they're dropping gear 12 plus pieces at a significant rate, whilst also giving us this Get 3 currency that we can use to do buy stuff like Girder keypads, we can use to buy impulse detectors, that's going to supplement our income for getting stuff for those higher relic levels. I am hopeful that we are actually going to be able to relic our characters at an advanced pace. I don't think it's going to be light speed. I don't think we're going to be going from R7 to R9 in a matter of days. I'm not saying there's anything like that, but it is an improvement. It does make things easier. So there is still hope, ladies and gentlemen, that we can actually engage in this content in a realistic time period. How realistic that is still up for debate. Now, what I would really like to know is just how difficult are some of these missions going to be at the top end. The sort of later phases, he has said, Crumb did say that it is going to be significantly harder as you progress through. So how impactful is modding going to be? How impactful is it going to be to have the correct hero units relicked up to a high standard? I don't know. But it's been really cool to be able to see some of this live footage in action, and I have to give praise to our boy CG Crumb for actually coming out there, putting himself out in the open, and taking people's questions, taking people's abuse, albeit, and light-hearted abuse on Twitch, because it takes balls. Let's give credit where it's due. It takes balls for this guy to go out there and show this content, put himself out there, make himself vulnerable, and just do a little bit to assuage some of the dissent that's sort of circulating around the player base at the moment. Now, I know if you look at my previous video, let me just change screens. Now, I know if you watch my previous video from yesterday, I come off as someone that is of a dissenting opinion, and I don't want to mislead you. I'm not trying to say that I'm flip-flopping between my opinions here. I'm just taking the information that we were provided at the time and trying to make an informed decision, give you guys an informed decision about knowing where to invest in your rosters and what is the most beneficial thing for you. I still maintain high relic requirements and completely gate locking people out of the system through insanely high relic requirements is not necessarily a good thing, and I don't think at this stage that there is enough here to expedite our farming that we will be there quickly, but I think it's a good start. And I think what he has shown from us, the map on the TB looks amazing. The battles, who can say? We haven't seen enough of the actual battle content to really pass judgment. And it looks like that there's an incredible focus on the likes of platooning and deploying. The significance of the combat missions, they only give 200,000 GP if you complete them. When you're looking at hundreds of millions of GP to try and hit your stars, 200,000 GP is not significant. The lion's share comes from platooning. As we see here, you can see 10 million GP for finishing one part of the operations. 10 million GP. That's where the lion's share is coming. The real focus is on relicking broadly across your roster so that your guild can fill out those platoon sections. That's how you're going to be earning the big bucks in this upcoming TB. And the rest of it, you might not be able to engage with, but at least you can deploy and save yourself a couple of hours of work. Speaking of hours of work, this one took a few. Could you just hit that like button? Do your boy Scribble a favor. Really appreciate it. All right, I'm not going to go on any further though, guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you with the footage that CG Crumb was giving us, let you see some of these combat missions. I'm not going to talk through it. I'll let you sit back and enjoy it at your own leisure, just for those that want to have a peek at some of these combat missions. If you haven't seen it already, look over here and you can check out my video on my initial reactions to the TB. And in case you need some help with today's Galactic Challenge featuring Boosh Lair and the Hut Cartel, I've got a little video over here specifically designed for you. Pro tip, you can get it all done with just the Hut Cartel. Mum's the word. All right, guys, that's going to about do it. I'm going to play the footage. You all have a fantastic day and have a lovely weekend. Peace.